This is a lecture for my professional responsibility class. We're going to be talking about Model Rule 8.4. Now, this is a very long rule. It's one of the longest of the model rules with subsections A through G. And so we're going to break this into two videos so it doesn't get too long and do the first few sections in this one. And there will be a second follow-up video that's actually just for section G, which is long enough to be a standalone rule and is the most recent addition to this rule. So 8.4 is a general misconduct rule that covers a lot of different types of lawyer misconduct. A, it is professional misconduct for a lawyer to violate or attempt to violate the rules of professional conduct, knowingly assist or induce another to do so, or do so through the acts of another. Now, before I move on from this slide, take a look at that provision and what it says. First of all, we have a rule that you're not allowed to violate any other rules. And it's pretty common if you follow disciplinary actions in your state that you will see a lawyer who's disciplined simultaneously for violating one of the other rules, and then we can usually add on a charge of violating 8.4a. Why? Because they violated another rule. The other parts of 8.4a give us the equivalent of an attempt charge or a conspiracy charge, trying to conspire with someone else to violate the rule, and you're assisting them or putting them up to it or asking them to do it at your behest. And so if you think about it for a moment, I'll give you an example. Let's say, going back to our rules about fees, there's a very clear rule against charging contingent fees in criminal cases, So let's say that you offer to represent a criminal defendant on a contingent fee basis, and the client turns you down or just doesn't hire you or says, no, I would rather pay you hourly or something like that. You have still attempted to violate the rule. And so you could be subject to discipline even though you never actually collected a contingent fee. And we could go on and on through all the rules where you offered or tried to violate the rule, and then fortunately it didn't work. Other people wouldn't go along with you, or in the end you didn't succeed, but you could still be subject to discipline under 8.4a for trying to violate one of the rules. So this is a pretty significant rule. Okay, let's move on. 8.4b. It is professional misconduct for a lawyer to commit a criminal act that reflects adversely on the lawyer's honesty, trustworthiness, or fitness as a lawyer in other respects. Now, there's a couple of comments about this when we get to the comment section that talk about which types of crimes could subject you to discipline. Not all of them. So little misdemeanors, regulatory offenses, and things like that, where you may actually have to pay a fine, are probably not going to cost you your law license. If you go to jail, you're convicted of a felony, you should assume that you're going to be disbarred for that. Why? Because these types of serious crimes reflect on your character and fitness to practice law. So we're going to come back to this point when we get to the comments. Let's go back to the rules and take a look at the next one, which is C. And I actually put C and D on the same slide here because they're short. It is professional misconduct for a lawyer to engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. Please note that this is kind of a catch-all that's broader than B. So even if something is not a crime, it could still violate C just because it's egregiously dishonest or fraudulent or deceitful or things like that. So there are things that people do that are sort of, I'm going to call the outrageous lawyer stories, right? The things where lawyers cheat other people, betray people. They do something that narrowly escape criminal charges, maybe because witnesses won't testify or something like that, but we still end up disbarring or disciplining the lawyer under 8.4c because what they did was dishonest or fraudulent or deceitful. And then D is engage in conduct that is prejudicial to the administration of justice. So for now, I want to pitch this in terms of what you might think of as obstruction of justice, except Here we're talking about something that may not satisfy all the elements of that for a criminal conviction, but it's still clear that you are trying to thwart someone else's access to the legal system. I also want to mention for my students that when we get to 8.4G, most of the content of 8.4G, which is about discrimination and harassment, used to be in the comments as part of D, as a type of as conduct that's prejudicial to the administration of justice. And 8.4E, it is professional misconduct for a lawyer to state or imply an ability to influence improperly a government agency or official to achieve results by means that violate the rules of professional conduct or other law. So don't tell your client, for example, that you're close personal friends with the judge and the judge owes you a favor, and so you're sure that you can do something, or that you are related to a congressman or senator so you can make some calls. Anything where you're either expressly or impliedly suggesting that you can pull some strings behind the scenes to circumvent, to get the result you want in the legal system and not go through the normal legal process, that could be a violation of 8.4E, and don't do that. And I know there's people who like to do this, lawyers who are really connected to political figures or to know a lot of judges or related to a judge or something like that. Some people like to name drop for the sake of impressing people or impressing a client. Even if you don't do it, even if you don't say, oh, I can just call the judge and solve this like that, even if you don't actually do it, the fact that you're going around telling people that, bragging about this, is a violation of 8.4E. 8.4F, it's a violation to knowingly assist a judge or judicial officer in conduct that's a violation of applicable rules of judicial conduct or other law. So if we have a judge doing something like, I'll give an extreme example, accepting bribes or coercing people into bribing the judge or things like that, and then you are helping the judge cover it up, or you're a co-conspirator in this, that would count as a violation of this rule. Now, I want to draw your attention, I have on the slide here, for the MPRE, watch out for judicial code questions that are embedded in questions about 8.4F. And so the call of the question is really about a lawyer. And so when the MPRE, when the examiners say, for example, that there's only going to be like 3 or 4 questions on your MPRE about the code of judicial conduct, I think that they're talking about questions that are pure questions about whether the judge violated the code of judicial conduct. But they could give you a question that has a hypothetical about a bad judge and describe something that's a violation of the code of the judicial conduct. But the call of the question is actually asking about a lawyer who helped the judge or helped cover it up or something like that. And they're asking you, did the lawyer violate the rule just because the judge violated the code of judicial conduct? And the answer is yes, the lawyer violated 8.4F. Okay, let's go back to the slides and look at a couple of our comments here. Comment 2, I'm going to cut out the comments that are kind of unnecessary or repetitive of the rule, merely restate the rule, and just focus on the comments that I think are helpful for students in preparing for test questions. Comment 2 actually refers back to 8.4B, and you may remember that's our section about committing crimes and being subject to discipline because you committed a crime. And here it's going to explain many kinds of illegal conduct reflect adversely on fitness to practice law. And they give a couple examples of fraud and the offense of willful failure to file an income tax return. And I put these in bold because I think that you're likely to see a question about one of those things on the MPRE or on my exam, where if you get a question and the lawyer committed tax fraud, just assume that the lawyer also violated 8.4B because that's a crime. And how do we know? Because the ABA spelled it right out. And so if you're wondering which crimes count, tax fraud definitely counts. Now, let's move on. However, some kinds of offenses carry no such implication. And in the old days, before the model rules and when we had earlier versions of lawyer ethics codes and a lot of states used, the distinction was drawn in terms of the offense involving moral turpitude. So not every regulatory offense or violation of an ordinance or traffic violations or things like that would count as a violation of 8.4 and subject you to discipline. And the courts and state bars would say only crimes that involve moral turpitude. Well, this phrase became problematic because the concept can be construed to include offenses concerning some matters of personal morality, such as adultery and comparable offenses, cohabiting before you're married and things like that, that have no specific connection to the fitness for the practice of law. Now, of course, some types of sexual assault would relate to fitness to practice of law, but the fact that the person has their personal morality or private sex life is a little out of line with community standards in your day should not subject them to discipline. And that would also include technical, even if there was a law against it. And remember, this has been on the books for a long time, and when we still had things like sodomy statutes and so forth that had not been repealed yet. Okay, now the lawyer is personally answerable to the entire criminal law, and I want to stop right there and make sure you understand you're not above the law just because you're a lawyer. So you can still get tickets, you can still go to jail for bribing people, you can still go to jail if you're caught with drugs and things like that, even though you're a lawyer. But the lawyer should be answerable only for offenses that indicate a lack of those characteristics relevant to law practice when it comes to discipline. And here's a list. Offenses that involve violence, dishonesty, breach of trust, or serious interference with the administration of justice are in that category. So even if let's say you are engaging in what would be called obstruction of justice or witness tampering or something like that, and it doesn't you don't satisfy the elements of a criminal offense in your jurisdiction, or we don't have enough proof in terms of witnesses who are willing to testify and things like that, there could be enough evidence for the state bar to proceed in a disciplinary action against you. I also want to highlight violence. We have lawyers around the country face discipline, suspension, and disbarment every year for domestic violence and other types of physical assault, losing their temper and beating up their neighbor, getting in a gunfight with someone, and so forth. So acts of violence, even if the lawyer, let's say the local prosecutor, drops the charges or decides not to press charges, acts of violence could subject you to discipline. Now, also note that this is still comment 2, a pattern of repeated offenses, even ones of minor significance when considered separately, can indicate an indifference to legal obligation. And so there's old cases about lawyers who have a whole bunch of like little misdemeanor charges or unpaid fines and things like that they just ignore, and none of which on their own would be very serious or raise eyebrows at the bar. But the fact that there's hundreds of these suggests that this lawyer just is a scofflaw, doesn't have any concern about the law or the rules or the system and so forth. So we can aggregate a lot of minor offenses for purposes of discipline if there's enough of them. If you are in a course that requires that you document, that you watch the videos, our lecture attendance password for this one is cabotage. Now, that concludes our lecture, our first lecture about 8.4. There's a follow-up lecture about the rest of the rule.